Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming AD's Chairman and CEO, Bill Weisberg.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. Hey, I was 27 years old when I started at AD and 35 years old when I became the CEO. And along the way, I've given a few of these talks. There's no group I would rather give this talk to than our electrical industry, where we were born and raised. You folks are awesome, and it is a great honor and a privilege to speak with you every year. But man, I used to get so nervous. I mean, I'd be like shaking, even more than I'm shaking today. And I would write down every single word that I was going to deliver and practice it in the room, till I had it all figured out. And then people told me, what the hell are you doing, man? Just get up there and talk. So that's what we do now. We just talk. I'm still nervous, though. And I do personally believe that people who don't get nervous when they're doing something important are people that either don't care or are phony. And I do care, and I'm not that phony, at least. Yeah. So earlier today, Ed Crawford and his people and Dan Draslov and Juan Carlos had a chance to speak to our members in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico and talk about the things that are going on in the electrical divisions. And last night, Ed had a chance to chat with many of you suppliers and gave you a really nice update about the things that are happening electrically. The division is doing great programmatically, new value-added services, great new suppliers, wonderful new members coming, and terrific growth. I'm so proud of that team and proud of all of you. My talk today is really not so much about electrical, more so about AD overall, the different aspects of AD, the different things that we're doing, the strategies, and what lies ahead. And I feel honored to be able to share with you some of the results that we collectively are achieving across all the different business units and countries. There's a lot of noise out there. It's hard not to sometimes feel like we're all being imposed upon in terms of how we should feel or things that we should do. But there's so much good that's happening. And our members and our suppliers going to work every day, growing their businesses, opening new locations, acquiring companies, and growing. You're doing the good, solid work that it takes to build our countries and to build our communities, and it's reflected in the numbers. These are same-store sales, or basically organic growth of the AD independent distributor community across 4 different business units and 3 different countries through the first 9 months of this year. The PHCP is an acronym that stands for Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Piping, and Industrial Bearings and Power Transmission, the electrical business and building materials, which for us is primarily interior stuff, gypsum and insulation and the like. And all of those businesses in each of the countries in which we operate are growing and growing in a dramatic fashion. And it's a real tribute to you and your entrepreneurialism and the leadership that you show within each of your businesses. We have in AD overall 587 different distributors. There's lots of detail on this slide, but I wanted to share it with you so you can get a sense of our steady and methodical approach to growing our community of independents. We've never sought to have the most members. In fact, to the contrary, our strategy is to be the strongest group with the best members and the best suppliers and the best programs, and to do that on a selective basis. And so we have multiple industries that we're in, and we selectively recruit new distributors. And there are some acquisitions along the way, some things that we start up and some groups that we acquire and become part of the AD family. There's always consolidation. You know, there has been, in all my years, a certain number of companies every year that sell mostly for family reasons. It's typically because of internal corporate succession stuff. And in average, about 3% of the business that we do each year, it goes through, through consolidation. But there's also a tremendous amount of organic growth within each of the divisions and industries that we're in, whereby independents continue to not only thrive, but take share within each of their industries. If you see that bottom line on this, which doesn't impact our member count, but that's over 100 different independents that our own independents purchased along the way. So AD is getting bigger. We recruit on a selective basis. We expand on a selective basis. But the vast majority of our growth every year is organic growth, real growth for our members and real growth for our suppliers. When you look at our numbers, and I'll share with you some because they're good, you know. So we're going to share them. So the purchases from our members that they make with our suppliers is setting a new record this year, $10.8 billion. That's up about 9% over the previous year, and you can see it's more than doubled since 2009. So our members are increasingly important to our suppliers, and our suppliers are doing a wonderful job supporting the members through conversions and project activities. You're becoming so much more important to us, and we greatly value that, and we appreciate that. The net distributions represent the rebate dollars that our suppliers invest in the relationship so that the independent distributors that are inside of AD can continue to grow, can be profitable, can make investments inside their company that don't get out to the street, but grow their businesses. And we are setting another record this year, $685 million, or if not a little more, in distributions to AD distributors. There is it's a wonderful chart here, but I see that there in 2015 we did have a down year. And the way I look at that is it's not so bad. Even the Red Sox lose a game once in a while. Another record that we're establishing in 2018 is that the combined sales of AD distributors across all our business units is at $40 billion. How about a hand for $40 billion? If anybody had any doubt about the strength of independent distribution, I think that should dispel it. We are a strong and vibrant, growing community of independents and entrepreneurs and supplier partners. And that scale is done for strategic purposes, because what that enables us to do is to bring forward programs and services beyond the traditional value set of a marketing or buying group that can help our members continue to grow as businesses. Our distributors do a phenomenal job in the local marketplace. Occasionally, there are opportunities where it's beneficial to collaborate. And so we have a suite of real programs with real people behind them, dedicated employees in each of these areas. And the cost of those folks is shared over a pretty significant base of multiple industries and multiple countries. You'd say primarily beyond our corporate skill set area, we're looking at investments in people, in technology, and in areas of procurement. We have today in this country and others a tremendous need to attract and retain the very best people. Most independents have a relatively modest HR program. You know, it's just the nature of their businesses. They run them pretty lean. So we have real HR support services, a suite of service providers and our own dedicated people that can come alongside of them and help them build their company's culture and enhance their recruiting practices and their retention programs. And we offer special multi-divisional meetings that just focus on HR. I mean, there's real meat behind each of these programs and services. We recently announced can we go back one? There we go. So thanks. We recently, you guys are good back there. All right, so we recently announced the merger with a buying group in power transmission and bearings called IDC. And IDC is a wonderful group of independents in an industry in which we already participate. And they actually have warehouses where they participate collaboratively with their members on doing some redistribution. And so we're going to be looking at that strategically, keeping it in bearings and PT for now. But there may come a point in time where it makes sense for us to do some collaborative group purchasing and redistribution to the benefit of our supplier community and to the benefit of our members. So we're not afraid to make an investment in an area that could be of strategic value to our members. Real important to us that it's always our members' brand and our suppliers that we're behind it, not in front of it. We want to support and help, but we don't want to be the ones who are leading these initiatives. Another thing that happened, here we go, for this year is the corporate succession of AD. Ever since AD started, it's always been incredibly collaborative. We've always had a board that consisted primarily of members, and we've had governing bodies and product committees and supplier advisory councils. But the original legal structure of AD, and all through its period of history for all those many years, was single ownership. It was originally owned by my dad, and then in 1991 by me. When I was looking at the future for AD, it has always been the plan for it to be owned by our members. But the original plan was for that to occur upon my departure. And in looking at that and talking to our board of directors, we just felt it made so much more sense to implement it while I was still active in the business. I mean, after all these years, I have learned a thing or two about AD, and the opportunity for me to assist in that transition and to play a role was one that just made so much sense. So there is some people who think that I have retired, and that there are people, by the way, who thought I retired 10 years ago, so that ain't exactly new. But some people think I'm leaving and that this is my farewell speech, and as much as you might want that to be the case, that's not actually the case. My current plan is to be around for another 8 or 10 years, but it's not as the owner of AD. I'm planning to be here as a CEO, reporting to the board, and to work together with our members to continue to grow the business. There are more mountains that I want to climb, frankly, and more things that I still want to accomplish in my career here at AD. But it's really good that the long-term corporate succession issues have all been resolved. Were anything to have happened to me a year ago, it would have got figured out, but it would have taken a whole lot of effort and time and distraction in a period where really didn't need to be focusing on that. So we've now put it to bed, member-owned. We have over 500 independent distributors that currently own AD. How about a hand for all of them? Now, I have to be honest. There's part of me that is relieved and thrilled for the future, and there's a part of me that's terribly worried and concerned. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, but I've been doing a pretty good job as the owner of AD all these years. And now you all own it. And as much as I respect and love you, that can be a little bit frightening, a proposition. And so here's what I've decided to do. I've decided to share with you what I have called 4 rules for owning it. Now, we sent out to all of the members a whole lot of legal stuff. It's an LLC, and there's an operating agreement, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. But I realized that, it really didn't contain these 4 key principles. And so we're going to go over those 4 rules for owning AD right now. Now, some of you are suppliers. In fact, about half of you are suppliers. And so you're probably thinking, do you mind if we get up and leave now? Because this really isn't about us. And the answer is, yes, I do mind if you get up and leave. And there are 2 reasons for that. One is that it would really be rude if you got up and walked out at this point. We're halfway through, okay? Hang in there. And even if I couldn't see you, it is a little dark, there are people that would notice and would tell me later. But there's another reason, and that is that the 4 rules for owning AD aren't really any different than the 4 rules that you really want to follow in life if you want to own anything or any job or any project, anything that you want to be successful at, whether it's as an individual contributor in a business, a manager, or an owner. There really are 4 specific things that are important to keep in mind. And so we're going to go through that right now. Rule number 1 is to act like an owner. All right, so these rules aren't based on theory. They're all based in facts. If you look at our industries, we're all very familiar with our industries, right? And so in this industry, and frankly in every one that we're in, independent distributors actually do grow faster as a group than the national chains with whom they compete. They're smaller companies, they have less capital, okay, in many cases they have less technology. They're not any more intelligent, okay? They may think they are, but I know you all, okay? So what is it about independent distributors that makes them more successful? Well, the answer is that they have an ownership mentality. They act like owners. And in fact, they infuse into their entire business a culture of ownership. When you act like an owner, you are much more successful at whatever you do. Now, you might be a worker and you might be a manager and you may not even be an owner, but you can still act like an owner. And let's talk about the primary difference. So if you just have a worker mentality, your primary focus is on getting your work done, doing your job, and doing your job to the best of your ability, but it's a focus on individual activity. And the things that you care about are primarily about how other things impact your ability to get your job done. Now, if you have a manager mentality, okay, that's a good thing too. And what do managers care about? Well, they care about the work getting done, and they care about the people that are doing the work. Yes, they do. They care about people, and they care about work. They care about the numbers that they have to achieve in their management objectives, and they care about the policies of the business. All important good things. Owners care about the work, the people, the policies, the programs, and everything. An ownership mentality cares about the smallest detail and the largest big picture strategy. So when you go to work every day like an owner, you're not just looking at the job in front of you. You're not just looking at the policy. You're understanding how it all ties together and whether that policy makes sense in this particular application or whether something ought to be adjusted to deal with the reality. See, ownership mentality isn't just about winning the project or the bid. It's also about the relationship with the supplier. It's about the relationship with the customers, everything. Acting like an owner, whether you're a worker, a manager, or an owner, is a key to success. What's that mean for you as an owner of AD? Well, it's not that different. It's changing from just being a consumer of a service to being someone that cares about every aspect of it and the future of it and the strategy of it, and not just what's happening this year, but what's happening into the long term. So the key rule number 1, act like an owner. Rule number 2 is believe that you can win. Henry Ford has a famous quote, you probably know this. It says, there are some people who think they can, and there are some people who think they can't. And usually, they're both right. All right, if you don't believe that you can win, the odds of you being able to win are very, very low. Ever since I've been in this industry, people have been talking about how difficult the future is going to be for independent distributors. Back in the early days, there was Gray Bar. Man, they were intimidating. And, and Allphase and AmFac. These were giant companies that were going to dominate the landscape. And Home Depot came along, and then Grainger. And today you have Amazon. All throughout history, independent distributors have not only survived, but they've thrived. So people are going to tell you that you're not going to be able to win, and I'm here to tell you they're wrong, and you can. And you have to believe in yourself and that you can win. And this just applies not just to independent business people, but it applies to anybody doing any job. If you don't believe you can win, why is anyone going to follow you? Why is anyone going to invest their time with you? And how are you going to have the courage to make decisions that require some element of risk? People who are building e-commerce websites are people who believe that their company can win. And there are people out there who are maybe not so sure. People that are opening new locations are people who believe that they can win. People that hire talent are people who believe that they can win. In order for you to overcome the challenges that are ahead, in order for you to make investments that need to be made in your business, you have to believe in yourself and in your ability. And where do you get that confidence? I think you can get it from thinking about how far you've already come in life and the things that you've already overcome, the challenges that each of us have faced. None of us have had an easy road, and yet we've done well. And you take that and you use that to continue to fight, to continue to lead. We have a slogan at AD. And the first time people saw that, they're probably like, ooh, our slogan is together we win. It's not together we have great meetings, which we like to do, and it's not together we have great rebates. It's together we win. This organization is here in order to come alongside strong independents who are committed to winning. And as an owner of this organization, we need your commitment to it as well. Rule number 3 is to do the hard stuff. Do what's hard. John F. Kennedy has a quote, and it says, hey, we're going to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. The best things in life come from doing the most difficult things. everything is challenging. It's hard to do, any job. It's hard to run any kind of business. It's hard to run any kind of department. But all of us are putting off things that we know in our heart of hearts that we ought to deal with. Those things that you're putting off are the very most important things for you to do, for you to address. Could be something, it could be a personnel issue. You have a high-performing person that's detrimental to your team's culture. Could be a family member or a family situation that you don't want to disrupt the family dynamic. The people that don't address the hard stuff are the people that don't break through. And they risk so much by not addressing the things that are really important to address. When our team, my team, staff, we got together and we were doing some strategic brainstorming. And we asked ourselves, okay, we're building this scale so that we can help and support our distributors. What is it that we should do to help them? What is their greatest strategic threat and need? Well, as we debated that topic, it came pretty clear to us that the issue was the digitalization of communication and business between our members and between their customers. And that the amount of business, while it's small today, that's done B2B in our industry online, is going to grow. It's going to get to be very significant. And frankly, there's so many of our members that would be hard-pressed to kind of take this on, that they're reluctant to, or the economics of it and some of the different aspects of it. And so we kind of realized that we needed to address this. And was an industry initiative that started maybe 20 years ago that everybody thought was going to solve the problem, and it didn't. In fact, we're kind of hoping and rooting for them to do it so that we didn't have to do it. But if you wait for somebody else, you're going to get disappointed. And even though we didn't have the expertise, and even though we didn't have the financial resources at our beck and call, we realized that we needed to pursue this because it was the single most important thing to pursue. We spend about $7 million a year helping our members build their e-commerce futures. We've built almost 4 million SKUs. We have almost 100 of our distributors that are now doing business live with our content that we have built, with our dedicated employees and contractors that we have. We're doing this collaboratively with approximately half of our distributors across our different business units participating. It's not perfect. I'd say we're 75% of where we ultimately need to be. But there's no one else that's remotely taken this on. Why? Because it's hard and because people are scared. But the hard stuff is always the most important stuff. Rule number 3, do the hard stuff. And rule number 4, my last and final rule, is to make it about more than just you. Okay, so everyone here is very important. I'm important, you're important, we're all important. But life and our businesses are not just about us. There are a lot of people that rely on us, that's true, but our businesses do so much more than just serve us. Everything in life, requires a team effort. Everything in business requires a team. And if your primary focus is on you, people aren't going to follow you. If your primary reason for building your business or building your department is for your own career or for your own financial, people aren't going to follow you. They're not going to do the things that need to be done in order for things to be successful. The reason that AD has been so successful all these years is because we have a cause that is bigger than me, the entire team, and even the people in this room. We're committed to the success of independent distributors and the suppliers who support them. We have a cause, and that cause is what drives us. The very best people that I have that work at AD are people who are driven and motivated by the cause that we represent. They are the people that have a passion for what they do. I have that passion for what I do because I believe in you. So we all need a cause. In your business, there are many things that can be that cause. It can, in fact, be the people who work in your company and the families that they are raising. It can be all the people in your community that your company has the opportunity to employ and to serve. Causes resonate with people. Causes lead people to achieve things that they don't achieve just for money or just for personal satisfaction. In our business, we do a couple of different things. We, and many of you do this too, we serve together at least twice a year. On this slide over here on the left is a picture of the people who work at AD. We went one afternoon to a local nonprofit and we helped them organize their facility. They gather up clothes and they distribute the clothes through little pop-up stores in different neighborhoods in poor areas in Philly to help people who are looking for, things that they can wear on a job interview and the like. And we all got together and spent maybe 3 hours or so working in their facility. And prior to going, we did some things internally to raise some money so that we could give them, a donation as well. So we were going to give them some time and also help them financially. Now, I'm not sure exactly. I forget the number there. It's not a huge number. I think it's like $7,000. Is that what that says? And it's but it's not a small number either. And this came just from the folks who work at AD. When we handed that check to the people who work in that nonprofit, they literally cried. I mean, these were people, these nonprofits, they've got nothing. And they weren't even sure how they were going to cover their expenses for the next 3 months. And a little bit that we could raise internally made a huge difference for those people and the people that they're helping. And every single person in our company felt an enormous sense of happiness just to be able to help them. On the right-hand side, you have a picture of the Disaster Relief Foundation that we set up last year. And this is an initiative for us all to do collaboratively. We set up a vehicle that enables AD distributors to help other AD distributors and suppliers to help our members. When the people who work inside of one of those companies lose their home due to a fire or a hurricane or a flood. And last year, thanks to your generosity, we distributed almost $200,000 to about 35 different people who lost their home across several different AD companies. And you can read, yeah, please, thank you. You can read about some of those stories. I mean, we don't put names of people in there, but in the issue of AD Today, we have right now, with the recent hurricane that came up the Panhandle, there's a distributor that we have in Georgia who's got, still sorting through it, but about 5 or 6, 7 employees who lost their home through that Hurricane Michael. And the way that we have this set up is anyone can go on here. You do this on your phone if you wanted to, and there's a pull down, and if there are multiple distributors in an area, you can pick who you want to get the dollars to. The guy that runs that company, Sanford Knight, he's just the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He's quiet, and he comes to the meetings. He's always, hey, Bill, and and he contributes, and he supports the suppliers, and he contributes to networks, and he's got people in his company who lost their home. So if you have an opportunity, check that out. So there's a lot that we can do that's good. And we have businesses and companies and departments with great people working in them, people who are generous and are working hard. When you make work and life about more than you have an enormous opportunity to enrich people's lives and ultimately to even do better in the work that you're trying to accomplish. I gave this talk, or something sort of like it, at our Plumbing North American meeting. And after that meeting, I announced this acquisition we made. And I got an email from one of our plumbing distributors who wanted to know what we paid for the inventory that was in the warehouse of the bearings and PT distributor. She goes, "What'd you pay for that?" He's a plumbing distributor, and I'd be like, typically the old Bill would be like, "It's none of your damn business," But actually, no. So I wrote him back and I said, "Glenn, you are following rule number 1. You are acting like an owner of AD, and I'm very proud of you, brother." So he shot me this back, and he goes, "Bill, after I left your talk, I wrote this stuff down, and this is the text that I sent to my team. So this is the summary of everything I just said in 12 words by Glenn Fuller from Texas Plumbing and Supply. Act like an owner, folks. Believe you can win. Do the things that are hardest, and make everything about more than you." About 15 years ago, I ended a talk like this with a quote from John F. Kennedy. I think in history we'll look back and realize one of our greatest presidents and one of the biggest opportunities missed that our country ever had. So he said, and I quote, he goes, "The greatest force in the world today is neither the H-bomb or the guided missile. It's neither capitalism or communism. The greatest force in the world today is man's desire to be free and to be independent. This is our mission. This is your present, your future, and your legacy. And this is your group, so own it." Thank you. Thank you.